I'm Matt Anderson, Curator of Transportation at the Henry Ford, and we're riding in a very special car today. It's the official pace car of the 1953 Indianapolis 500. It is a 1953 Ford Sunliner. Indy is a race that runs on traditions, whether it's the singing back home again in Indiana at the start of the race, or drinking that bottle of victory milk at the end of the race. And the pace car is one of those traditions. That concept goes all the way back to the first race in 1911. And the pace car is more than just a ceremonial vehicle. It's a working car at the Indy 500 race. That race starts with a rolling start.
The fastest field ever to compete at Indianapolis move away behind the pace car.
The drivers don't just go from a standing start when the green flag falls. Instead, they do a few laps around the track, kind of get up to something approaching a higher speed, and then take off when the green flag falls. And you need the pace car to set that pace, to keep the grid together. And of course, the pace car also comes out at caution laps. Typically, American automakers have provided pace cars to Indy on kind of an irregular rotating basis. Certainly over the decades, there were many Indiana manufacturers that had that honor, Marmon, Studebaker, and so forth. And the Big Three was there many times. Often it would be a new model being introduced and given a big showcase at the Indy 500. Sometimes it would be to mark a major milestone in a company's history. And that was the case in 1953. That was a big year for Ford Motor Company. They were celebrating 50 years since Henry Ford and his associates signed the Articles of Incorporation in 1903. Ford actually sent two cars to Indy in 1953, this one and then the 1902 999, one of those pre-Ford Motor Company race cars with which Henry Ford built his reputation. The two-door Sunliner convertible was a part of Ford's Crestline series, its top trim level for the 1953 model year. Typically, the Crestline series was distinguished by coming standard with the V8, the 239 cubic inch V8. Now, Ford engineers tweaked this particular engine a little bit more to serve as pace car. They increased the displacement to 255 cubic inches, boosted the horsepower to about 125, and the top speed of this car is just north of 100 miles an hour, so it could hold its own with the race cars there getting ready to start. There are other special features on this vehicle, of course. Certainly the white and the gold trim. You see the gold paint around the instrument panel here. The upholstery is gold leather. Of course, special lettering on the side of the car that indicates it's the pace car for 1953. Reportedly, there are flecks of real gold in the paint used for the lettering on the sides of the car, and also gold fleck in the upholstery here as well, so spared no expense. Another interesting feature on this car, if you look in the center of the steering wheel, there is a medallion commemorating Ford's 50th anniversary, 1903 to 1953. Now, the pace car's role has really grown over past decades. Now, in 1953, Ford really just built two cars, this one for primary duty, and then they had a backup just in case something went wrong. Today, you could have 30 or 40 pace cars working not just one to pace the race, but also being used in parades or special ceremonies leading up to the race. Though something that makes 1953 special is that Ford Motor Company, after the race, produced 2,000 replicas of the pace car for sale to the public. And reportedly, this is the first time that replica pace cars had been built and sold on that scale, and they proved to be very popular. Now, those replicas looked pretty close to the original pace car, though they had some changes. The replicas did not have the modified V8. They also did not have leather upholstery. They had vinyl upholstery, and probably needless to say, they did not have the flecks of 23 karat gold in the upholstery, nor in the paint used on the lettering. Another distinguishing feature of the actual pace car is that it has special wire wheels on the tires, which were not used on the replicas. The replicas just had a solid disc wheels. But nevertheless, those replicas were very popular, sold out rather quickly. As for the original, obviously that was used in a few other ceremonies around the race, but when all that was wrapped up, it was given to the Henry Ford, and we have had it ever since. We've got a lot of phenomenal race cars at the Henry Ford, obviously, many of them featured in Driven to Win Racing in America, presented by General Motors. But I'd like to think that this pace car holds its own against them. It's not a competition car per se, but you couldn't run the Indianapolis 500 without a pace car. So certainly an important part of the ceremony. And it also gets back to this idea of why auto manufacturers race, right? It's to sell cars. It's a promotional effort. Nothing increases sales quite like success on the racetrack.